Good morning, everybody. Coming to you from Los Angeles this morning, where we had an unusually cold night last night, where it got down into the 40s. So everybody's around here is wearing jackets. For many of my Midwestern colleagues, you're probably laughing at that, but it's been a little dramatic for us here today. But welcome to Fake Not. It's a community of critical thinkers and cultural revolutionaries who are focused on branding in this day and age of fake everything. The environment we're in is kind of crazy right now, and so we're thinking a lot about how we brand and how we communicate in that environment. So I'm Kent Stones, founder of Stones Insight, and today I have with me Marc Posch of Marc Posch Design. And Marc is a brand consultant, designer, speaker, and owner of the branding and digital marketing agency, Marc Posch Design, located here in Los Angeles. And his company really focuses on technology companies and helping them define their brand, how to disrupt in their industry, and most importantly, and what we're all after, is how to grow. So, Marc, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for the intro. That was well said, well spoken. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often, so so it's a good day. A couple of weeks ago, I had an opportunity to sit through a presentation by an author named Josh Dekel. He's written a book called Kiss the Ground. And this is a book, and he's also working on the documentary film of this, that focuses on a really simple and amazing solution and truth that with regard to climate change. And that is, if we simply change our diets to a more soil-based, regenerative agricultural diet, we can actually much more effectively reverse the effects of global warming and harvest healthy and abundant food that really can help eliminate a lot of the poisonous substances that I think that we are ingesting. And it was pretty incredible in listening to him talk, where he takes you through a little journey of what would happen if we eliminated all the automobiles today. Would that solve global warming? And the answer is no. And he said, okay, so if we did that, plus we eliminated a lot of the other CO2 producing elements, would that solve our problem? And the answer again was no. And the problem is all this legacy CO2 that we've built up in the environment. So it was really fascinating, and his whole talk was about how we can use this process of regenerative farming at this very simple and obvious solution. And yet the struggle that they face as they're trying to promote this is it tends to spark a political and ideological argument. And something that should be so easy to adopt and get behind, there's a lot of resistance to that concept. So, Marc, I thought as we were talking about this, I thought you had a very interesting perspective with your deep experience in technology branding, but then green branding as well, about what are some of the challenges that these brands will face as they are trying to grow and disrupt in this very political and ideological environment.
Yeah, you throw in one term that's already causing problems. It's green branding, the word green by itself. What you were describing about farming and nutrition and removing cars or finding outcome, it's the technology is out there. We have tons of solutions to help maybe not solve the problem of global warming, but at least have some positive impact on and prevent the worst. The major problem we face in this country here is an ideological, not so much a technological problem, but an ideological problem. And we see this all the time. You know, once you throw in green technology, half the population gets uncomfortable with the meaning of the word, or just the ideology behind. They see it as a West Coast conspiracy or something that Al Gore has cooked up to influence the perception about whatever, and to bring a big government into the game, and there's all kinds of weird stuff floating around. So
Mhm.
what we tend to talk about is, can we have impact by just shifting the narrative, shifting the dialogue from almost to green, where we're not calling it green branding, but maybe innovative American technology. And
Mm.
there was an interesting article on Fastco recently, which that was diving into exactly that issue. And then I keep sending it to my clients because it's so fascinating about. And as I said, if Al Gore is involved, we don't care about. But if it's a conservative Republican entrepreneur or politician is involved, and he uses it in a different language, it's all of a sudden acceptable. We see the example, for example, we see the state of Texas, which is definitely not known as a blue state, is by far the largest producer of wind power now these days, and the numbers are amazing. I have a few data here. Texas now produces more wind power alone than 25 U.S. states produce from all power sources combined. That's impressive. And develop, yeah, seriously, because when you think of a green power energy state, you could probably think of California first. But surprisingly, California is only third place. And where was the number? Wind power in California. Wait a minute, I had a number somewhere. It's on third place, and Texas actually is leading the pack here. And why is this happening? Because it was sold in a different way, in a different light, and this is the fascinating aspect. You can position something in a way people understand it, or you can present it that people are just not getting over a certain perception, a certain ideology, and are having a really hard time accepting innovation or new technology. That's a crucial point.
Yeah,
and I think that apply to what you said earlier with farming. If it's something that would support the mainland in a way that we can address really pressing issues like overpopulation, efficient farming, farming, but
yes,
in a way so it really benefits the people in the Midwest, in the states that have been hit the hardest from recent development. I'm sure people would embrace it and live with it.
Yeah, I think so. We were talking yesterday about this, and I mentioned that Kansas as well also is a huge proponent and deliverer of wind energy. And it's often, historically, when it's been talked about as the environmental or green thing, it gets a lot of resistance. But when they start to shift that discussion to be about how it's actually reducing and maintaining low rates of energy, of low cost of energy, suddenly you shift it to being like this very proud Midwestern thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love your perspective about farming as well, because I think there's such a strong identity, particularly in the Midwest, but in other states as well, with the farming community, and it's such a legacy aspect of our country, how our country has evolved. I think you're right. There's a huge benefit in shifting that conversation.
Interestingly, it goes both ways. On the left side, there's this reluctance of accepting a genetically modified food. On the right spectrum, there's this reluctance of exploring alternative fertilizers or biological whatever ingredients that may sound too Birkenstocky or whatever, too liberal. There's always something attached to it that gives people a perception of something's wrong with it, doesn't fit in my way of living. And this is something we need to factor in. It's even though we're one country, we're one nation, we still have a different view of the world. And this is so important about branding. Just looking at what's their lifestyle, what are their values? Can we tap into those values and maybe add something to it that resonates with them, and build a product from there, not just applying something to them and saying eat it or die. We have so much conflict. And if I can add something to it, I got this. I need to quote this. This is again Fastco. They made one interesting study, and they were just describing a technology in a way so from their perspective would resonate with conservative Americans. And let me quote this: America needs energy independence, job creation, and clean air and water for working families. And Republicans are poised to be innovators in that field, since free enterprise can solve problems more efficiently than big government. American ingenuity applied to solar power will mean economic growth and prosperity while ensuring our beautiful country stays that way. Solar power, energy made in America. Now that's a way to sell solar energy, right? But you understand the language is different than when I'm here at a meet, and when I'm here in California talking to the Sierra Club. It would be a completely different narrative. That's what I'm talking about. And this is where we have to build in the different perceptions of the world into how we sell product, how we promote or sell or whatever present products.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point. And I think as you and I have discovered, we could probably talk about this for hours. So I think, thank you so much. I think you provided a really great perspective around how we need to think about branding. Kind of the wrap up for me as I think about this is, number one, I love your point about we have to really pay attention to the audience that we're talking to and understand their values, understand the cultural systems that are really driving the way they think, the way they live, the way they relate to others. So we have to be really careful with the language that we use. And yeah, and I think, and from a tone perspective, one of the things we have to avoid is just really avoiding a judgmental or this is what we should be doing, this is the moral thing to do, and instead start reflecting, as you put it, how it fits into their lives, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think another real interesting point that you brought up is that you have to take time to understand the ideology. And what is it, and how did it get to be in that group or in that place, so that you can understand how to talk or how to fit into that as well.
Oh, it's the same. And it's, to me, I mean, I come from branding. This is always the first step, that you look at the audience. Who are they really? It's not just a broad social demographic group. It's just it may be a group of people you cannot relate to because you don't even know them. See, this is what happened during the election.
Yeah.
You meet the people, go talk to them, see what their problems are, what their pain points are, what they really enjoy, what they really appreciate, what values they have, and then walk a mile in their shoes, and then try to understand their perspective, and then find a way to communicate with it, but not just sit here in California and talk them down to the people in the Midwest and say, "Oh, you should just buy green products and you'll be so much better off." And you don't get it, obviously.
Yeah. So it gets to that whole, as we often talk about, how important empathy is in branding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Main driver. Absolutely.
Yep. Well, Marc, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and kind of chatting with me. Just one thing I love to do at the end is anything interesting you're working on that you'd like to share?
Well, always. I mean, this is my best.
It'd be a bad thing if you said, no, not really.
I love these discussions because we have the same discussions with clients, I must say, and this is really the exciting part of the job. It's not so much just applying design, making something pretty and shiny, but really talking about the audiences, what their needs and values are. And what's interesting to me, coming from Europe, I come from Germany, so I lived there a long time now. I've been living here for 20 years. So seeing the differences of values, how the perception is of things, it's really fun. Some of our clients are still in Europe. So it's often a different narrative, a different dialogue we're engaging with. And sometimes it's fascinating to see how the value systems how differ. And sometimes it's a little bit more greener and more accepted over there. Sometimes it takes a little longer to help people understand the need for things to change, and so that's what makes my life exciting.
Yeah, I think we are lucky. We get to work in an industry that's always changing and always different. All right, well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day today.
Thanks, Ken. My pleasure.
Thanks, Marc. Bye.